not making them do paperwork for paperwork's sake.
Correct.
And I think this is what I'm most excited about, is that I feel like this is simplifying and getting it to them in a form factor that will, at the end, there's going to be growing pains. I accept that and I expect it. But I think at the end, it will be back in 5 years. They'll be like, oh, you remember back in the days when we used to do that? Just like they talk about, oh man, back when your days, they still had horses pulling the fire engines. Yeah. We're going to be like, oh, you were in the end first days? Woo, Lordy. Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today in our series, Navigating NERIS by ESO. We're here today with our friends from the Austin Fire Department. We have Chief Andre De La Reza. Chief is the Assistant Chief over Prevention and Technology. He has also from his team, and the executive team joining us, is Jennifer Heatley. Jennifer is the Division Manager here at AFD. And also, person I've known for a while working with us is Jacob Boone. Jacob is the IT Solution Architect here at Austin Fire Department. So thank y'all for joining us today. I appreciate this. This is something that we have a lot of folks curious about. Talking to a metropolitan fire department that has challenges that gets multiplied by the number of people, number of stations, divisions, shifts, all of those things, while still driving for quality data and to be compliant, as y'all do here at AFD. And we know the old adage, there's two things that most fire services personnel don't like: the way it is and change. And it's realistic. I remember being on the floor. Guess what I didn't like? The way it was and change. And this, sitting at the table, having these discussions and of just talking, is really how we solve problems in most fire stations. Is everyone at the table, everyone gets a cup of coffee, glass of water, tea. I'll just start with you, Chief. Let's talk a little bit about, this is a change for 30 years. Yeah. You've been around a day or two, just like I have.
Right.
What's your feel about this change and going to a new system? And then how do you feel a little bit about your men and women in the street with that change also?
Thank you. Let's start off with thank you. I mean, the collaboration between the Austin Fire and ESO has been an amazing thing that we've been able to go. While we may be a larger metropolitan, arguably on the top 10, 11, we keep on fighting with our neighbors, of the largest departments in the nation. What we find in working with others is we have the same challenges, same opportunities for growth, and sometimes, honestly, the same headaches that we have. We just have a lot of them. As everything, we're all in the same core mission of providing good quality fire and emergency response services to the residents of our community. It's just how we do that. Something that's come up in the past 30 years is the incredible importance of documentation. Not only for the commonly brought up liability rationale, but also to find trends in our communications as we collaborate, not only with other fire departments, with technologies providers like ESO, but also with public health authorities, with EMS things, with our CATRAC, which is our conglomeration of different hospitals and everything there. We're looking for that. So that became so evident during COVID, where we were trying to find the epicenters of where we were having hotspots and outbreaks and how to address that. That is foundationally pivoted off of good quality documentation and data and metrics. As technology has increased and our ability to deep dive into that, it's based off of good data. What we were finding is paper sheets that we started on doing and creating those things. They're great, but even just scanning them was the big technological improvement there, but it didn't give you the ability to mine that data, find those trends. So as we're doing this, the ultimate goal, better service to our communities, more efficient use of those dollars. Dollars are becoming incredibly tight in many communities. Ours is one of those. So we need to be able to show that we are being effective and efficient in there. So that's one of the joys and one of the founding reasons why we are so strong with ESO and how we're working with that for finding better documentation and technology to help our people. Writing paper reports after calls took a lot of time. So the digitization, and when we went to this, was a way to kind of go with something faster and more streamlined so we can have our people spend more time training and serving the communities. We want to, while having good quality data and good documentation, we also don't want it to be onerous. We don't want it to be hard or heavy. Our people are doing a lot, and more than ever, they are spending more time responding to calls, serving, and we put a lot on our operations personnel. We want to make sure that we're not making something that is important take the way of other things.
There's so many valid points in that whole statement there, Chief. Jennifer, playing off of what Chief shared with us, I know you deal a lot with metrics, compliance. How does this play out, looking at compliance, looking at, share how many people that you're going to have going through this whole transition, and let us kind of see what your stand is on a standardized data. In the day of, so many people want to have some type of customization, but what's the impacts with getting good standardized data?
I think the value comes with, I'm a firm believer of bringing everything back to the basics. Yeah. With technology, how great it is and how helpful it is, it sometimes is so overwhelming. And when you have so many choices, it kind of paralyzes the team when they're not used to it. And so that's when you kind of get the bad data. We're busy at stations, so you're just clicking buttons to close it down and get it done. And so focusing on basics, on training, on focusing on what's important in our area and getting the data correct. I know with the current system that we're transitioning away from, there's so many choices within the program that everyone's data was so all over the place. And a very simplistic example I like to use is the dumpster fire code, right, which is 154. But across the board, when you pull out the data, it was all over the place. They would say dumpster fire in their narrative, but we weren't coding it the 154. It was 151, rubbish fire. It was 142, vegetation, right, natural vegetation. So it was all over the place. So that's not clean data. So I'm also not, we throw a lot of PowerPoints at them. There's a lot of education that way. And for me, it's talking to people, like you said, like we're doing right now, is sitting at the table and explaining the importance of the data and why we want you to pick 154 versus 151, and helping them understand that clean data will help us in the end, when we're presenting to council or we're presenting to the public, and having that clean data. So my team for the last 10 years has been doing that, is breaking it down to the basic level and then helping them with, you don't have to do it by yourself. We don't want you to sit at a computer for 20 minutes trying to figure out what needs to go where. Call my team and we'll help you. And then we come on the back end and we scrub it for them. And then we reach out and we go and we meet with them. And so it's a lot of conversations. We've built resources to make it easier. And so that's the standardization that we're trying to create. It's less of standardizing more resources and more of human interaction and getting people to understand and getting in front of them and helping them understand. I believe that is more efficient than just continuing to throw more PowerPoints at somebody or more, slide decks at someone or whatever it is, because people just don't understand. I think within the fire service, I think we all know that, you learn from the guy before you, right, and they learn from the guy before them. And that's the type of thing that we're trying to cut down with. You can't standardize it if that's the way they're learning. And so standardizing the way that we train, standardizing and having limited resources so it's not overwhelming. I think that's all very important.
I want to take a moment to echo something that Jennifer was talking about is we get, as administration of leaders, of staff going into these fire stations, we get them for a acute moment in time. We get to talk to them about our subject for an hour or 2 hours if they've got good coffee. And then we leave and they're together for the next 24 hours. So they get to unwrap everything, unravel, tear it down in there. And the importance of telling the why, yes, of giving that so they can understand. The men and women of our fire department and of the fire service in there, they will show up at a fire, will bring the entire fire truck, and they will fix whatever problems that are there. Absolutely. And they will work till the end of the day because they believe in the cause. And if they won't inherently, some of them won't see the technology or the documentation part as part of that mission. But when you explain the why and you get there and they believe in it because they see how that affects people's lives, they're in. They're all in. And they'll work just as hard as they do at a fire to make sure that they're doing it right.
Firefighters, engineers, officers, battalion chiefs, division chiefs, I mean, everyone gets the why they went through and learned what their task, the why when they took their oath. That's why they're here. Mm-hmm. I think tying that why into the value of the documentation is critical. It's not because you were told to. This is the return it provides for you. I think you're right. As we go into NERIS and we start looking away from, is it a 154 or is it a 151, and trying to help that and give them the option to say, it was a dumpster fire.
Yes.
Will help them because it gets much cleaner, and it helps everyone then because y'all get the ability to know how many of those dumpster fires were there while looking at the information around that. And I think that's a really critical spot that we've struggled with for a while, mm-hmm, and helps us as we go through. Jacob, we've talked a lot about the value of technology. Being the person that has to keep the wheels on technology moving in this day and age, especially where we look at how much security issues exist. The value of our data is critical. Yes. It is. But there's a lot of bad people that want our data. And it's one of those tasks that you have. How do you see going into an improved data storage with NERIS being in a more secure environment, with us getting away from the old style of loading an extract into an SFTP folder, hoping somebody picks that up and go into some direct APIs with keys and access to that? Do you, from a technology standpoint, what's your take on that, and how do you feel like that is going to be better for not just your agency, but for the fire service as a whole?
I'm glad you asked about that. That was one of the things that I kind of wanted to mention, was just that I'm personally very excited that we're moving away from these, XML file drops via SFTP and things like that. We're moving over to an API. It's a REST API. It's modern. We've got the ability to have developers that are familiar with it. You've got key access, which is really helpful. You can distribute your keys to developers. You can expire those keys. You can maintain really good security on all that, and that's huge, right? As you said, there's a constant threat level out there, and we have to really maintain a lot of vigilance on this. So I think it's going to be a vast improvement on our security, but I think it's also going to improve the accuracy for those larger departments that pull the data into their own data warehouse, because we can more consistently grab that data. And we're not having to deal with actual physical file, or not really physical, but digital file changes and things like that. Discrepancies that we then have to collate and all that good stuff. So I think it's going to be a huge improvement.
I think the ability to solve some of the transfer load issues that we've faced for years, that has created problems for agencies like yourselves. Y'all are you're a sophisticated agency. How many stations?
53.
53. 3 shifts. How many different divisions now?
8 different battalions.
8.
And then we have
And then our satellite offices.
yeah.
So this information is out there.
Oh yeah.
In Central Texas, in the Austin area, a tech hub. So every person in their house knows something about programming in Central Texas. It just does. Sometimes those are good people. Sometimes those are bad people. I'm excited about knowing you feel more secure about that data, but more importantly, because of your sophistication, you can put it into your own systems.
Yes.
Y'all do some really neat things about providing feedback. You were talking about that, Jennifer, a second ago about the why. Y'all do some really interesting things about taking that data and showing it back to your battalion chiefs and showing it back in the stations. Can y'all talk a little bit about that? And I'll start with you, Chief, and then each one of you kind of talk about that, because that just really enforces the why. And I'm a little biased having been around getting that information, but I think it's critical.
So for my role in this and how we constantly are getting called from the city manager's office or the city hall, asking us about our numbers, our metrics, how we're serving the residents, and really, why are they spending dollars on us? Public safety throughout the nation tends to be 50 to 70% of any municipality's budget.
Right.
We are no different on that. And as we have competing priorities that come in and perhaps are reasons why different council members got elected, they will look at that big pie and say, how do we whittle that down? And we need easily accessible data that we can throw business intelligence against to be able to tell our story and not only show that it is required by federal laws and HIPAA and all the things on there, but and the National Fire, as we're talking about the upcoming NERIS, but also be able to use it and say how this will help them and our community. So being able to portray good data into strong data metrics and easily consumable elevator pitch-sized infographics, that is where we really get some high criticality, and why I'm looking so forward to NERIS coming through there.
With the dashboards that we've created, we are using them for multifaceted different things, right? It goes to the KPIs, any kind of metrics we're sending up to city council or the city management team. We also receive around 3,000 to 5,000 public information requests a year. So that's another reason you have to have those incidents scrubbed and quality assured. The dashboards, we look for trends. We're looking for stations or battalions that need extra training. If the narratives aren't where we need them to be, if the data itself is not where we need it to be. And so we also track alarm activations. So we're seeing that is something we can use at a higher level at the executive level to kind of push change with some of the leasing offices around and all of because we're going out to a lot of alarm activations that turn out to be frequent calls. So
the alarm system, not necessarily.
Correct. And so just starting conversations, but before, when you don't have a dashboard or you don't have the data visibly available, people tend to not really, you're just talking at that point. But when you can visibly represent that data and show that we're spending a lot of time going to the same location for nothing, then that starts conversations that we can then try to fix that and make our time more efficient, make their time more efficient, and figure those things out. So alarm activations, we keep stats on the fire stations and the personnel on how well they're doing with the coding. So when we train you on how to do the report writing, we then track you to see. So we've got a quality assurance dashboard that we utilize that shows frequent errors. Where are they happening? 561 is one of those. It's constantly misused. So we're and that's unauthorized burning for everybody that doesn't know what that is. So so that kind of quality assurance. flipping and using all of that data, and it helps with training. So when I go out to meet with a captain's complement, for example, to train them on MFIR stuff currently, I take and create an infographic, if you will, of a screenshot of what they're doing and the type of codes that they're using, what they're overusing. We talk about, and then we just talk about their area and the incidents that they go on. And so the visual representation has gone over very well, because it's very much, we didn't realize, right? So that's helped tremendously with the buy-in with my team and getting out there. And so the dashboards and that visual representation for us, for such a large department, has helped with the culture shift on a lot of this stuff. And I think that we've been doing this for 10 years. They're very used to my team. They're very used to the way that we're doing this. I think it's just going to help us transition to NERIS. It'll be much, much smoother, right? It's going to be a much smoother transition versus what we dealt with 10 years ago when we started
the process.
Well, in complete honesty, smoother than it would have been if we had it. But with any transition, especially one of this depth and how it's got tendrils and throughout the whole department, there's going to be hiccups and bumps. But that's one of the reasons why we jumped in early on the entire NERIS. We all knew that the national and the feds were going to be pushing us that way. There was a contingent of people who were like, maybe it won't actually happen. Let's just wait and see. But the team really talked about it, and we decided, let's get ahead of it. Let's get it in there early, because then we can help steer us and set us up for success instead of getting like rolled over with it when it comes beating down the road.
And it definitely goes back to, we don't like change, right? So get ahead of it. Let's start talking about it to help that switch over a little bit easier.
Yeah. So you had mentioned earlier the security concerns both externally, as Bill had said, but also internally, because we have a posture with our own internal communications technology management group as well. And so, because of our partnership with our vendor, you all obviously, we've been able to kind of lead the charge on some of that stuff that would be an expectation from our internal requirements. Like, for example, MFA. We were able to get in there early and get in there ahead of things and actually lead the charge on that, and kind of avoid some issues that we would have had down the road. But one of the benefits, even though we have this additional security posture, one of the benefits is that we get a lot more opportunities for collaboration. Our data warehouse that Jennifer and Chief were talking about is, it's all, in many parts, it's due to the work of communication technology management with us, where we're able to take in and grab data from all kinds of sources, right? Yeah. So we have our CAD data, we have our ESO data, our EHR, our NFIRS, NERIS, all that good stuff. And then a whole bunch of other mapping and things that we can pull data in from and really do some detailed reporting that ends up in these KPIs and reports that go up to the leadership here at Austin. So it really is it's a fantastic, collaborative opportunity.
And I'll say it goes even beyond Austin, because we work closely with the Capital Area Fire Chiefs Association. We've got 13 different ESDs in Travis County. We're all going to NERIS. So we all talk about these. We get together regularly and we talk about what are the challenges and successes. And we're able to connect them. And sometimes I'll hear a conversation. I'll hear someone complain. I was like, oh, no. Jacob just found a solution to that. And we'll link them up together, the two tech people who actually know what the back end magic is. And they'll work together to help solve. So it's kind of a leverage of scale, almost a technological auto aid scenario, if you really want to think about it like that. But it is critical to work together. We know that large incidents and large emergencies ignore political boundaries. NERIS could be, in some ways, considered that as well.
Yeah, we have faced those with, if you want a large incident, somewhere in Texas, there's going to be one at any point in time.
It's true.
We've all seen that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a valid point, is getting in front of these things early. And y'all participated and came to the table real early with us, and that was appreciated. Let's talk about a couple of lessons learned that we can share with other departments. The timeline's short, but if you're waiting for someone to show up January 1 with an answer,
right,
that just scares me. I'm sorry. That just scares me. So what's some things that y'all have learned, both good and bad? Because this hasn't been perfect on our side. Jacob's aware of this. Jeffrey, we've had conversations. You and I have had emails about, hey, we need to get together and work through this. What's some things that y'all can share with other departments that really they should be, if they haven't done them yet, go do it. And if they're in the process of doing it, maybe sharing from y'all and y'all's experience.
I've got two particular lessons, success stories that I think we learned through hard tribulations from hard knocks, and we managed to hold on to this a couple times. One, particularly for this technology, it is something that we share. Austin's a split service public safety. We have fire, we also have police, traditional, but we also have a third-party EMS provider. That's the Austin Travis County EMS. They are heavily involved with ESO as well. Years ago, when we first transitioned to ESO, we were both talking to y'all individually, and what we found is if we talk to it in a collaborative method, we start to avoid duplication of effort and be able to align. We'd sometimes have competing priorities, but we both work together where we can agree with each other and say, okay, in this aspect, that is more important. Let's prioritize that over other things. So being able to know who your stakeholders are and combat that problem together, I think has been a real strength for us in this Austin area and architecture. Secondarily, is when you start talking about your internal stakeholders, the operations personnel who are going to be in there, that we've done an amazing job. I'm really proud of the team of identifying our super users, our superstars, who are out in the field on the fire trucks. We took a few of those people who either because they had a background in it, they from prior departments or prior jobs, they were the tech savvy people. They're the ones who the crusty old officer is asking to help them with their station iPhone situation. Yeah. So we got these people and we had them at the ground floor part of the solution. We're working through them. They're the eyes and ears out in operations saying, hey, this is a problem. And in a clean environment in the offices, it's not a problem. But when we're trying to do this on scene, while dealing with chaos that they have there, that's the criticality, and they're able to kind of right size us and point the ship in the right direction in there. So those are two really big learning lessons that I think were successful.
Yeah, I think one of the things that not everybody may know but is critical, y'all share at the Combined Transportation Emergency Communications Center some resources there, technology there, that handles all the dispatching for public safety. Not just y'all, but some of your neighbors around you and some of those other items. So, having that up front really helps deal with that. That's a great call out that just because it's NERIS doesn't mean it's not going to impact some of your other folks. Right. That's a great thought for everybody.
Correct.
Jennifer?
Again, off of what Chief Reza was saying, I think that it's important to leverage our operational people, to utilize them, to get them in early, to help us with the beta testing. They're obviously going to be able to bring up questions that we may not have thought of already, help us create the resources that we're going to need down the road. I think that is one of the biggest lessons learned, and not waiting until January 1. And for us to be proactive, getting our eyes on it, having my team in the background, having Jacob in the background, kind of fixing those kinks, because this is going to be a transition for lots of different things. It's going to change our dashboards. It's going to change how we're pulling information from CAD and how we're going to visually display it. So just being very proactive and not waiting until the nth hour, I think is the biggest lessons learned. And then leveraging your people. Even if they're not as tech savvy as we want, if they have buy-in already, if they write good reports already, I think that those people are the ones that we need to bring in to help us with this very quick transition.
And every once in a while, we'll pull in the people who were our biggest opponents and the squeaky
Agreed.
wheels
Yes.
who there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bring them to the table. If they're willing to complain about it, have them be part of the solution. And sometimes
Yes.
when you can win them over, they become one of your biggest champions.
Absolutely. I
agree with
think
that too.
I think the operational piece that y'all were talking about is we don't know what we don't know until we put it in the hands of the end user.
Yes.
And I think y'all did a good job of selecting some folks, giving them the opportunity. It was beneficial for us, getting some of that beta and y'all being engaged early to provide us feedback about different things. Just the vision of the product, the UX, about some feedback we got from y'all that we were able to adjust and able to change. And I think some of those things are really critical, but it's like you say, y'all have them for a couple hours. We've given them this. They've been able to see transformation while it was being done.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They get to go out and now be the champion. And they're in those places for 24 hours.
Yes.
They're there with that crew the whole time. And having those people in those captains' compliments, having them in that same battalion, they get to be the people that help manage a change, a cultural transition of what we're used to understand that, okay, this isn't bad, and we were able to be part of that. So I think that's a great approach that everyone needs to consider. Who is your champion outside of the admin division, outside of the operational leadership? Who is those folks that you need to bring to? And you're right, Chief. Sometimes that squeaky wheel actually is the champion. They just don't realize it until they get all their questions answered.
Agreed.
Jacob?
A lesson learned from me would just be that there is significant configuration and architectural decisions that need to be made around this new change, and you've got to get on it early. You really do. You got to be proactive. I mean, this is going to be a quick schedule, even for us being prepared, and there's really no time to waste. There really isn't. I mean, even just the adjustments to the KPIs and things that are going to come down from the new API and things, they're going to be huge organizational considerations. And so, can't wait. You got to get on it.
I think that's a great point. What you have been reporting on for decades may be a change because it's not part of the standard, or the ability to look at what we have been reporting. Was it really the most critical thing there? It was what we had, so we needed to deal with it. But is there some way of doing it? And how do you want to change that story?
Right.
And I think go ahead, Jennifer. I think
Well,
that's
my
a great
team,
point.
well,
Y'all do.
in the back end, being able to get into the beta testing site, we created a crosswalk to compare the difference, the NFIRS and NERIS. Where can we leverage some of the similarities of the two systems to help us with training transition, creating our own data dictionary to help teach when we go out and train. So because we've been proactive, my team's able to start creating those resources that are going to help our super users. That way we're all speaking the same language when that's needed. One of the things that I'm hoping with this transition is that we're all learning this new system together, that we won't have the same, I learned from them, I learned from that guy, I learned from my lieutenant, I learned from my captain, and that we can leverage this as a standardized way of managing it. And I think that with all of us working in the background doing this, bringing in the super users, I think we're going to see a very good transition with hiccups, because it's silly to think that there's not going to be hiccups. But I think we're not going to have the major ones, right, that figuring out what a definition is, or figuring out how we want to define something within the Austin area. That'll already be taken care of. It'll be more of adjustments versus creating something at the ground level at the nth hour.
One thing I wanted to bring up as we start wrapping things up is expectations. We talk about setting expectations, especially for our operational and our end users. And we've rolled out in our department tons of different policies and saying, hey, this is the way it's going. This is the newest and best, and this is it, and it's there. what we've been talking about our team is not only the why, but also setting a realistic expectation that this isn't a static system that you will be doing the same thing forever. It is a dynamic, iterative thing. So when we go in there, we're asking for two-way communication. Give us feedback so we can feed it up the chain.
Right.
Because I guarantee you, we've got 1,303 sworn personnel, and we will have 1,303 different opinions of what can be done better.
Yes.
But that's the beautiful thing about NERIS, is that we can actually now have a way of pulling in some of these, finding out commonalities, putting it into a technical lease wording, and sending it up. And it's got a better than zero chance of actually making it into the next year's iteration. This is something that's going to evolve and show things that we're not just forcing something upon them, but they are part of the team that's going to be providing better data, and not just random data that's decided at headquarters or at City Hall or at the federal level, but data that's going to help them. And that's just going to be a pretty cool thing.
I think that's important, is to realize that we get to drive a federal standard that we've just been dealt with. Mm-hmm. And that, that 1303 number, there's some ideals out there that we'll get to push at the federal level and get to adjust. Yeah. And that's valuable. That's so critical. So
I think it's a game changer. Also.
It is.
It's definitely an exciting new approach and more modern approach than the staticness of it.
And I think that's important too. Talking about the modern approach is just the same. We were excited the same. You are aware of it. You've seen the system. We got a chance to rewrite a lot of things and fix a lot of things that we wanted to fix, and not just shove something back into an old infers product and change a few fields. We got a chance to do this so we could be actively changing every year with NERIS in things that our agencies are sharing and being part of that going forward. As we come down and start wrapping up, I'm going to ask each one of you to share a thing that makes you excited about NERIS, kind of what we were talking about there and what you're looking forward to, not just today, but in the whole scheme of things as we go forward.
So I'm going to echo some of the things that have already been said, but I'm really excited that FSRI is stepping into the 21st century. I think that this new system, and we're seeing it with like the REST API and the ability to do connective calls and things like that, that they are going to hopefully, like they're saying, build a living, breathing product that's going to kind of follow the challenges that the people in the field are facing. And I do really love the idea that we're going to have some ability to communicate with them, and that hopefully, based on what they're saying, that it's going to be much easier to implement changes as things go on. I think the previous standard got very rigid over time, and I think this is going to be a whole new opportunity. So that's the thing I'm most excited about.
Absolutely. Jennifer?
I echo what Jacob stated. I think it's also exciting for the simplicity of it is very eloquent. I think you've got where NERIS was very static, but there were so many choices. And I think with this simplicity, this modern approach, more on an operational feel versus a federal technical over admin feel, it's more with our operational. I think they'll understand it better, which is exciting for us. I think the training will be easier. I think we can focus much more on more quality report writing versus kind of just fixing what we had at a static level, so we can encourage the impact and adjustment for our team to do a higher level quality product of reporting, because it's not going to be so cumbersome for them. They're not going to have to overthink something. And I think that's what we need, right? We need clean data across the board that's not so overbearing to our already overtaxed operational individuals. And it's really about making it clean for us, making it clean for, city council and the public, but it's also, let's not overtax our operational people with over, technology and over choices. And I think this is the beauty of this is that it brings it back to the basics, right? What I talked about before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's an idea, an image out there that I loved. It was one of the reasons I joined the fire service, that firefighters are strong, fit people who show up on a fire truck with all the tools, come off with a sledgehammer and a Halligan, and we break doors down and we run into things and we fight fires in a very analog method. Idea of technology was disparate to how firefighters work. I remember hearing about there was a computer and they wanted to put a modem, and then someone was talking about putting a second modem in a fire truck, and we're like, technology in fire trucks, that's a horrible thing. But we've seen it advance, and we're changing, and we're evolving as an industry. Ticks were the first thing. Thermal imaging cameras was technology, but it helped the mission. And people were like, oh, the idea of fighting a fire without a thermal imaging camera is ludicrous now.
Yes.
It is a time-saving, critical life-saving piece of kit. And I think we continue to go. Our workforce is getting so smart, technologically savvy. They are part of the team that's implementing this. We've got ones that are in the back end programming. They're amazing and inspiring groups of men and women, and they see the value. But we have to make sure they've got the right technology, the right training, and it helps them. It doesn't hinder them. We're not making them do paperwork for paperwork's sake.
Correct.
And I think this is what I'm most excited about, is that I feel like this is simplifying and getting it to them in a form factor that will, at the end, there's going to be growing pains. I accept that and I expect it. But I think at the end, it will be back in 5 years. They'll be like, oh, you remember back in the days when we used to do that? Just like they talk about, oh, man, back when your days, they still had horses pulling the fire engines. Yeah. We're going to be like, oh, you were in the end first days? Woo! Lordy. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I think we've got a lot of fun challenges that are going to help us coming down the road.
Thank y'all. I appreciate your time sitting down, having a cup of coffee with us, talking while we walk through this. I appreciate you sharing the lessons you've learned, the challenges we face. But more important, I think it helps reinforce the optimism that we have going forward, that even large fire departments as yourselves that are extremely technically advanced can use this to leverage what you're going to do. Compliance and standardization is important to be able to share that information across all of these departments and move us forward going into the next generation and beyond. Thank you for joining us today in our ongoing series about navigating NERIS. If you've missed some of our previous episodes, I invite you to go back and listen to some of them, especially our friends from FSRI with Tom and Craig talking about NERIS today and tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
You can keep it short and sweet too.
Thanks for coming.
Oh my god, perfect.
Nailed it.